Hey everyone, this is Seth, and in this video I'm going to give you an example of how you can mix a kind of a creative flow with your movement practice while still working on some fundamental movement principles. So up to this point I had been playing with some sort of snow angel kind of movements and swinging my arms around, and then here I started crossing the arms. I was noticing how when the arms were in front of my chest, my back would get wider, and I was interested in moving my shoulder blades. Then I decided to leave my hands on the shoulders, and I created a kind of constraint. And you can see the legs are swinging to side. I'd been doing that before, but began to get the idea that I could sit up. Now, of course, this would be simpler if I had allowed myself to put my hands on the floor to push myself up, but that's the whole point of a constraint. So the arms are not available, and I had to find a clearer path with my ribs into the floor. So I kept working at it, and eventually I go all the way around in a circle. And when you do a process like this, generally you'll find one direction is simpler and you're not quite getting it on the other side. So you go back and forth, and it's just a process of putting the pieces together. And then I was on my back again, and sometimes I like to use rhythm, so I have a kind of an oscillation here. I'm doing the snow angel movements just with the arms, keeping the heels kind of dug into the floor, creating that rhythm that just puts another layer of what I have to deal with there. And then arms and legs in the snow angel, and then I discovered another constraint of holding my feet. And as you'll see, I played with this for quite a while. Of course, holding the feet does not prevent me from bending and unbending the knees, and I, playing with that, started to go down, started to go up. And the point too is to not fall down, to not have to fight your way up, but to figure out what has to give way and what can move when two parts of the body are attached. Eventually I figured out I could actually stand on my hands and then stand up, so I switched the way I was holding my feet a number of times here, and reaching between there I'm switching the grip again on my feet and just kind of putting myself in a bit of a pretzel, and then seeing what I can do. Discovered that I could stand up, and then I could bring the knee back down, and so that's what I'm playing with here. Started walking away. Back on the ground, snow angel theme again, just seeing what would emerge. This time there's still that rolling up to sitting kind of idea that you can see, and the side-to-side movement much smoother at this point. I figured out how I could go all the way down onto my belly. And then here on the belly, I decided to play with rhythm for a while as well. So pelvis going left and right, flipping the arms over, and turning the head, and all three of those things are happening in slightly different rhythms. A very useful practice in any kind of a situation is to play with circles. So here, once I got my head off the floor, I started just finding out what I need to do in my spine to create those circles, and then I started getting curious about looking over one shoulder. I created a new constraint here, putting a hand against the small of my back, and figured out that I could come all the way up into sitting. And then, of course, I'm going to switch hands and put the other hand on my back. I think that it happens. Yeah, there it is. And, again, that might be simpler with one hand behind than the other, but it's the same basic pattern. Okay, here, the head is turning left and right. And the idea here is that the head is free on top of the spine. And I switch my hands every so often, but when I'm holding my forehead between my hands, I'm trying to create the movement with my arms and just let my neck be free. So there I was turning around myself, and now I'm looking up at the ceiling and switching my legs. So again, it's a kind of a rhythm thing, but it's also, see there, I disturbed myself just a little bit. So different positions, same idea, turning the head left and right to practice the freedom of the head and the eyes in these different positions. And so I played with this for quite a while, and then after doing this, I got the idea of going over to the wall. So there I am on the wall. It's kind of like a shoulder stand with support. And there's that snow angel idea of just taking the legs left and right. Now, eventually what I figured out is how to turn around the spine. So by scissoring the legs, I can actually twist the spine around, and I'm finding support. There I lost it, but I'm finding support over one shoulder and then over the other shoulder. As usual, there was one side that was easier for me, but I was able to kind of observe what I did on the side that was simpler and eventually find more or less the same idea on the other side. So this is just an example of how I play, how I develop ideas, and I'd love to help you develop your creative movement ideas as well. If you'd like to get a better idea of what it would be like to work with me, I'd like to invite you to head over to movewithseth.com and pick up my free training.